Welcome to this module on how to use the present progressive tense in Spanish. Now, I realize that's an intimidating name, but it's really quite easy to use. First of all, in English, using the present tense, we can say either I talk or I am talking. Now, this combination of I am with ing is the present progressive tense in Spanish. So it doesn't matter if it's I am talking, you are talking, he, she, or it is talking, we are talking, they are talking. It's all some form of the verb to be along or partnered with an ing in the verb. So this is the present progressive. Now, to express this in Spanish, we have two important sounds to be aware of. Those sounds are ando and yendo. Even though you see this combination of I, E in the spelling, it takes on like a Y sound, yendo. Now, with AR verbs, you will go to the ando sound. But with ER or IR verbs, we go to the yendo sound. And this is something that we're going to practice a lot in this module. First of all, let's look at an example verb. We'll take cantar, which is to sing. Now, in the present progressive, what we want to express is this idea of singing. So we have the ing. Now, to get that, cantar will go to the sound of cantando. So here you can see where that ando sound is coming in. Cantar, cantando. Another example would be to talk. So we have the verb hablar, again ending in AR. So to express talking, hablar would go to hablando. Another example would be comprar, to buy. So to express buying with the ing, the sound becomes comprando. So comprar goes to comprando. If we put those three examples on one slide, you can start to hear a very clear pattern. Cantar, cantando. Hablar, hablando. Comprar, comprando. This makes the present progressive in Spanish quite easy to get to. Cantando, hablando, comprando. With a little bit of practice, you'll find yourself able to get to the present progressive with pretty much any verb that comes to you. It's just a matter of getting used to the sound of it. What I'd like to do next is to try a few for yourself. For example, the verb to touch is tocar. So what we want to express is touching. How would you say it? Tocando. To kiss is besar. How would you say kissing? Besando. To call is llamar. How would you say calling? Llamando. To pay is pagar. How would you say paying? Pagando. If we put all of those examples on one slide, again you'll hear a very uniform sound in the present progressive. Cantando, hablando, comprando, tocando, besando, llamando, pagando. And remember, this is how we're getting that ing, singing, talking, buying, whatever it may be, we're getting it with this ando sound in Spanish. Next up, what we need to do is get the part for I am, because after all, the present progressive is I am talking, walking, sleeping, whatever, it's that ing. So what you'll use for I am is estoy. We're always going to fall down on the side of estar in this tense. So let's use it. To express I am singing, you would take estoy for I am and combine it with the cantando for singing. So you end up with estoy cantando. What's the verb to talk? Hablar. How do you say talking? Hablando. Now say I am talking. Estoy hablando. How do you think you would say I'm not talking? No estoy hablando. We just throw no at the front. So estoy hablando, I'm talking. No estoy hablando, I'm not talking. What's the verb to arrive? Llegar. How would you say arriving? Llegando. Now say I'm arriving. Estoy llegando. I'm arriving now. Estoy llegando ahora. Let's try to do the next few examples all in one go, so I won't hold your hand as much. For example, how would you say, I am buying? Estoy comprando. I'm talking. Estoy hablando. I'm paying. Estoy pagando. Next up, I'd like to talk about pronouns and specifically where we are going to place them in this structure. Let's take the pronoun for it, which is lo. Now you have two choices for where you can place lo. If we take the example phrase of I'm buying it, your first option would be to simply tag on the lo to the end. So you would have estoy comprando for I am buying, and then you would tag on lo to the end of it. So the sound would become estoy comprándolo. Notice that an accent has appeared here in the spelling because Spanish wants to make sure that you will not say something like estoy comprándolo or something that does not exist in the language. This is why we have the accent appearing in the spelling now. So again, you have estoy comprando going to estoy comprándolo. You're simply hooking on or tagging on the lo to the end of the verb. The other option that you have is to place the pronoun at the very front. So you would have lo estoy comprando. Literally, it, I am buying. On one slide now we can compare these side by side, the two options. So we have estoy comprándolo or lo estoy comprando. In the first option, it's being tagged on to the end of the verb, and in the second option, it's appearing at the very front of the phrase. Now you might ask which is the more commonly used. The answer is that they are both equally used, and you'll hear native speakers using both ways all the time. I think to begin with, it's probably slightly easier to stick with the first option here. The reason is because I feel it's a little easier because the placement matches what we're already used to in English. For example, you have the pronoun coming after the verb, and we're going to copy this in our Spanish by also having the pronoun come after the verb. So for right now, I would like us to stick with this first option whenever we need to place a pronoun using the present progressive tense. It's also important to say that it doesn't matter what the pronoun is. As you know, we have a whole bunch of them. We have lo, la, le, les, los, las, me, te, nos, so forth. So it doesn't matter which pronoun it is, you will always, for now at least, tag it on to the end. Let's try some more. Let's get some more practice. What's the verb to touch? Tocar. Touching. Tocando. I am touching. Estoy tocando. Now let's make the leap. How would you say I'm touching it? Estoy tocándolo. Notice that the sound didn't change. We already had estoy tocando. So there was nothing more to do than add the pronoun onto the end of it. We went from estoy tocando to estoy tocándolo. How would you say I'm not touching it? No estoy tocándolo. What's the verb to use? Usar. Using. Usando. I am using. Estoy usando. I'm using it. Estoy usándolo. I'm not using it. No estoy usándolo. Now let's try getting there all in one go. How would you say I'm buying it? Estoy comprándolo. I'm not buying it. No estoy comprándolo. The most important thing when adding pronouns into the structure is to remember that you do not change the sound. Once you have comprando, it's very easy to get to comprándolo, tocando, tocándolo, pagando, pagándolo. you're going to keep that same first initial sound, comprando, tocando, pagando, and simply add on the pronouns to that sound. As you've already seen, we're going to be using estar with the present progressive. So we had estoy for I am. Do you remember what he, she, or it is? Está. Make sure that you're not saying esta, where you would be placing the stress more here, because that would mean this in Spanish. For example, tonight is esta noche. It's important that your stress is here, está. Now, the nice thing is that we can use está in exactly the same way and really start to fully extrapolate the full power of the present progressive. For example, how would you say I am talking? Estoy hablando. Now, if we want to express he, she, or it is talking, we would simply switch into está hablando. So on the same slide, you can see we have estoy hablando and está hablando. Estoy for I am talking, está for he, she, or it is talking. Notice that hablando didn't change. We only changed the verb or the angle of estar from estoy to está. How would you say she's singing? Está cantando. He's arriving. Está llegando. She's dancing. Está bailando. He's buying. Está comprando. How would you say he's buying it? Está comprándolo. What's the verb to call? Llamar. Now, what pronouns would we use with llamar? For example, try to run down this slide, and using the full verb, I would like you to select the correct pronouns for to call me, to call you, to call him or her, to call us, and to call them. It would be llamarme, llamarte, llamarle, llamarnos, and llamarles. Now what I'd like to do is use these same pronouns, but this time inside of the present progressive. For example, how would you say she's calling? Está llamando. Now say she's calling me. Está llamándome. As you can see, the pronoun has switched from lo to me, but everything, the structure, remained the same. I simply tagged on the pronoun to the end, and I maintained or I retained that same sound from está llamando to está llamándome. How would you say she's calling you? Está llamándote. She's calling him. Está llamándole. She's calling us. Está llamándonos. She's calling them. Está llamándoles. How would you say I'm calling them? Estoy llamándoles. The word for the bill, meaning something that you would pay at a restaurant or a bar, is la cuenta. How would you say I'm paying the bill? Estoy pagando la cuenta. He's paying the bill. Está pagando la cuenta. How would you ask? Is he paying the bill? ¿Está pagando la cuenta? Let's finish with a few more random ones. How would you say I'm arriving now? Estoy llegando ahora. It's arriving now. Está llegando ahora. I'm using it. Estoy usándolo. He's using it. Está usándolo. He's not using it. No está usándolo. I'm not using it. No estoy usándolo. Welcome to part 3. What we want to do now is really maximize the power of the present progressive. To do that, we're going to return back to the verb of estar. We already know that estoy is I am, and está is he is, she is, or it is. So what we want to do is to add in all the other angles, starting with you are. Just like other verbs in Spanish, we take whatever it is for he, she, and it, which is está, and we simply add an s. So you are would be estás. Then we have the sound for we are. We go to estar and we add that classic mos sound, just as before with the other verbs, so we get the sound of estamos. We are is estamos. And this sound falls right into line, because if you can remember from before, we had hablar, hablamos, cantar, cantamos, bailar, bailamos, and estar, estamos. Finally, we need a sound for they are. And just as with other verbs, we again go back to he, she, and it and add an n, so the sound is están. Now let's put them all on one slide, and I would like you to pause and make sure that you study this for a little while before continuing in the lesson, because memorizing this slide will be the key to opening up all the power that the present progressive has to offer you and your Spanish. So running down the line, we have estoy, estás, está, estamos, and están. I am, you are, he, she, or it is, we are, and they are. Try to close your eyes and to do it just in your mind, forwards and backwards, to make sure you've really got it. Next up, what we'll do is run a little drill with this present tense of estar. How do you say I am? Estoy. I'm not. No estoy. We are. Estamos. We're not. No estamos. You are. Estás. You aren't. No estás. He is. Está. He isn't. No está. They are. Están. They aren't. No están. She is. Está. She isn't. No está. To finish off this video, I'd like to run a second drill. How do you say we're arriving? Estamos llegando. He's calling. Está llamando. I'm paying. Estoy pagando. They're speaking. Están hablando. I'm buying. Estoy comprando. How would you say I'm buying it? Estoy comprándolo. She's dancing with him. Está bailando con él. How would you ask? Are you arriving now? ¿Estás llegando ahora? They're dancing. Están bailando. He's arriving. Está llegando. They're paying. Están pagando. Are you speaking with him? ¿Estás hablando con él? We're speaking. Estamos hablando. At the beginning of this module, you'll remember that I said we had two important sounds for the present progressive. We've already worked a lot with the ando sound and AR verbs. Now I'd like to focus on the yendo sound. So this sound is for verbs ending in ER or IR. For example, let's take the verb salir, to go out. So what we want to express is going out. This is the ing with the verb. So the sound of salir goes to saliendo. Here you can hear that yendo sound. Salir, saliendo. How would you say I'm going out? Estoy saliendo. You're going out. Estás saliendo. Are you going out? ¿Estás saliendo? She's going out. Está saliendo. We're going out. Estamos saliendo. They're going out. Están saliendo. Let's take a new verb to practice with. Here we have to suffer, which is sufrir. So in the present progressive, what we want to express is suffering. For this, the sound of sufrir would go to sufriendo. Sufriendo. How would you say I'm suffering? Estoy sufriendo. You are suffering. Estás sufriendo. He is suffering. Está sufriendo. Of course, this could also be she is suffering or it is suffering. Now say we are suffering. Estamos sufriendo. Finally, they are suffering. Están sufriendo. Now let's look at a verb ending in er, and we'll take comer, to eat. So I wonder if you can do this one on your own. How would you express eating? Comiendo. So comer goes to comiendo. At this point, your ears are probably picking up on that repeating sound. So we have saliendo, sufriendo, comiendo. Let's drill it. How would you say I'm eating? Estoy comiendo. She is eating. Está comiendo. They are eating. Están comiendo. You are eating. Estás comiendo. We are eating. Estamos comiendo. Another verb ending in er is, of course, to do or to make, which is hacer. So in the present progressive, what we want to express is doing or making. How would you say that? The sound is haciendo. So hacer goes to haciendo. How would you say I'm doing it? Estoy haciéndolo. Just as with the AR verbs, you can see that in the spelling we now have an accent here to make very clear that the stress is coming at this point in the word. Estoy haciéndolo. And just as before, you really don't change anything. Once you have estoy haciendo, it's very easy to get to estoy haciéndolo. How would you say I'm doing it now? Estoy haciéndolo ahora. Do you remember the verb to break? Romper. So how would you say breaking? Rompiendo. We have romper going to rompiendo. How would you say you're breaking it? Estás rompiéndolo. He's breaking it. Está rompiéndolo. Let's again look at that repeating sound with the verbs we've used so far. This is what your ear needs to get used to. So we have saliendo, sufriendo, comiendo, haciendo, rompiendo. Now, in a way, the present progressive reminds you of how a modal verb structure works. For example, let's take this slide. So on one side we have the verb of estar conjugated in the present tense. So we have the angles. Estoy, estás, está, estamos, and están. And on the other side, we have saliendo, which is the present progressive going out. So once you have saliendo, it's simply a matter of picking which angle you want to express. They are going out, están saliendo. I'm going out, estoy saliendo. He's not going out, no está saliendo. Are you going out? ¿Estás saliendo? It doesn't matter which example you take. It all works in the same way. Here we have haciendo or comiendo. I'm eating now, estoy comiendo ahora. We're eating, estamos comiendo. So just the same as a modal verb structure, you have this stationary, and all you're doing are changing the angles on this side. Once you get used to it, this is what makes it so fast and so easy to use in real life conversation. Welcome to part 5. With the addition of the present progressive, we've added in a lot of new power into our Spanish. Just to summarize, with the present tense, we can say either I talk, which would be hablo, or I am talking, estoy hablando. And we have two key sounds to express this in Spanish. For AR verbs, it goes to ando, and for ER or IR verbs, it goes to yendo. So hablar would go to hablando, comer, comiendo, salir, saliendo. Here you can see the two groups, ando and yendo. Now, to make this all work and fit together, we need to conjugate into the present tense of estar. So we had estoy, estás, está, estamos, and están. Then on top of that, we looked a little bit at pronouns. And we discussed how we have basically two possible positions to put them. You can tag them on to the end of the verb, like the first example here, estoy haciéndolo. Or it can be placed at the very front, lo estoy haciendo. What we've concentrated on so far in this module is the placement of this first example here. Now, as a beginner, you'll find that once you get used to it, the present progressive is actually a lot easier than conjugating into the present tense. And you'll find yourself using this present progressive to express the present tense in Spanish quite a lot, simply because it is a little bit faster and easier to do. It also has that modal feel about it, as we saw at the end of the last lesson. Now, all of this doesn't mean that you'll never need to conjugate in the present tense, but very often you can simply use this present progressive instead of it. What I'd like to do now is a final practice. So we're going to combine the present progressive with the power of a modal verb structure. You'll see what I mean as we go through the drill. First of all, how would you say they are arriving? Están llegando. What is you know? Sabes. Now ask this. Do you know if they're arriving now? ¿Sabes si están llegando ahora? What is can you? Puedes. Can you tell me? Puedes decirme. Can you tell me if they are arriving now? ¿Puedes decirme si están llegando ahora? How would you say, I can't do it? No puedo hacerlo. I can't do it because I'm eating. That could mean that you were right now having lunch or dinner or something like that. So again, I can't do it because I'm eating. No puedo hacerlo porque estoy comiendo. What is he doesn't want? No quiere. Do you remember the verb to help? Ayudar. Now say, he doesn't want to help me. No quiere ayudarme. How do you say myself? It can be either yo mismo if you are male, or yo misma if you are female. Now say, I'm doing it myself. Estoy haciéndolo yo mismo or yo misma. I'm doing it myself because he doesn't want to help me. Estoy haciéndolo yo mismo or yo misma porque no quiere ayudarme. I'll give you extra points if you can redo that phrase, but this time for I'm doing it, I would like you to use the alternate structure where we put the it at the front. See if you can remember how to do it. Lo estoy haciendo yo mismo, yo misma, porque no quiere ayudarme. If we wanted to take that same sentence, but this time we wanted to make the he explicit, how would you do that? Lo estoy haciendo yo mismo o yo misma porque él no quiere ayudarme. What is I like? Me gusta. He likes. Le gusta. He doesn't like. No le gusta. How would you say we are dancing? Estamos bailando. Now say he doesn't like that we're dancing. No le gusta que estamos bailando. The word for together in Spanish is juntos. Juntos. How would you say he doesn't like that we're dancing together? No le gusta que estamos bailando juntos. What is she's going out? Está saliendo. She can't. No puede. She can't do it now because she's going out. No puede hacerlo ahora porque está saliendo. To express with her friends would be con sus amigos. Con sus amigos. She can't do it now because she's going out with her friends. No puede hacerlo ahora porque está saliendo con sus amigos. How would you say he's not speaking with them? No está hablando con ellos. In one of our Power Push modules, we looked at words for who, no one, and everyone, and I would like to incorporate that now into the present progressive. First of all, what is the word for who? ¿Quién? Now, just as before, when we want to pair these words with verbs, they will take the same angle as he, she, or it. For example, if we wanted to ask, who is speaking with them? So that would be, ¿Quién está hablando con ellos? Here we have the word for who with the accent because it's inside a question. And then is talking, está hablando. Here you can see the angle for he, she, or it. So, ¿Quién está hablando? Who is talking with them? Con ellos. What about the word for no one? Nadie. How would you say no one is speaking with them? Nadie está hablando con ellos. Who is dancing with her? ¿Quién está bailando con ella? No one is dancing with her now. Nadie está bailando con ella ahora. What is I can see? Puedo ver. I can see that no one is dancing with her now. Puedo ver que nadie está bailando con ella ahora. How would you say he's calling me? Está llamándome. What's the word for everyone? Todo el mundo. You can also say todos, but remember we've decided to concentrate on todo el mundo first. Now say, everyone is calling me. Todo el mundo está llamándome. Everyone is going out. Todo el mundo está saliendo. One more. Everyone is arriving. Todo el mundo está llegando. In part 6, I'd like to talk about the proper use of the present progressive in Spanish, because we have some differences between how we can use it in English and how you can use it in Spanish. For example, I'm arriving at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Here we're using the present progressive with I'm arriving, but we're talking about something that's going to happen in the future. Now, this is what you're not allowed to do in Spanish. Instead, you'd have to say something like, I'm going to arrive at 2 p.m. tomorrow. And this is the key difference that I would like you to take away from this lesson. In English, we'll often use it to describe something that will happen, but in Spanish, you would have to say like, voy a llegar a las 2 mañana. You can't use it in the same way in Spanish. If we look at these example slides, we have estoy llegando. So this means I am literally right now arriving. This is happening. Or estoy hablando con él. That means that right now I'm speaking with him. Estoy comiendo carries the meaning of I'm sitting down at the table right now eating. But it doesn't just have to be for things that are happening right now in this moment. It can also be for things that are ongoing. For example, estoy viajando. Now the verb viajar means to travel. So estoy viajando means I'm traveling. You could say estoy viajando hoy. I'm traveling today. But this could also be I'm traveling for the next 2 weeks, or I'm traveling for the next year. The important thing is that this action is in progress. It's ongoing. It's not something that's going to happen in the future, but it's happening right now, and it really doesn't matter for how long it's happening. The important thing is that it's ongoing in this moment. Here are some more examples for you. You could say in English, I'm arriving tomorrow. And if you did a literal translation of that into Spanish and said, estoy llegando mañana, this would immediately be heard as a mistake, because you're using the present progressive, estoy llegando, but this action is not really ongoing right now. It's going to happen. You're going to arrive tomorrow. So instead, in Spanish, you would have to say, voy a llegar mañana. Equally, if you said, estoy hablando con él más tarde, so I'm speaking with him later, this would be a mistake. Instead, it would be, voy a hablar con él más tarde. Now, in general, or as a general rule, English tends to use the present progressive more than Spanish. And it's important to be aware of the differences between how the two languages will use it. What I've given you here is just the first difference. There are others, but we'll cover them later on in the course.